Hey guys, welcome back. So today I'm working on this Toro Recycler mower. This one was given to the channel by Angelo after he brought it out this spring and tried to start it and it failed to start. He took the opportunity to upgrade to electric. So, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this one's gonna be an easy fix. Most likely just needs a carb clean. That said, I've been proven wrong before. I think last spring I picked up a mower with a similar story and it ended up having a bad camshaft. So yeah, I don't think that's the issue here. At least I hope it's not. So let me get you set up a little bit better. I want to check the basics and then just try to start it as is. See if we get any signs of life. Let's check the oil real quick. And we are going to have to be quick about this because we are losing light in about 15 minutes. So plenty of oil. Should be fine to test with. Let's see if we have any fuel. He mentioned that this was leaking fuel, so he actually hasn't been filling the tank up. Yeah, there is fuel in there, and it does not smell bad. So we'll look more into this issue later with the leaking fuel, but the cap does seem like it's going on kind of funny. And I'm just going to disconnect the plug because I want to tip this up on its side. I'm going to rotate the blade a bit and just check it, make sure it's not bent, and double check the torque on that blade adapter. When you tip the mower like this on its side, make sure the carburetor is facing up, or else you're going to get oil in the carburetor and potentially leaking out. So let's check the blade, see if it's bent. So I'm just going to take note of where this half of the blade is, and then I'll rotate the engine around until we see the other half of the blade. And it looks like it's not bent, though there is a bit of wear, so we're going to have to sharpen this at some point or potentially replace it. Let's double check that blade adapter, make sure it's tight. 5/8 fits pretty good. And I haven't looked up the torque spec on this, so I'm just going to bring it up to 45 foot-pounds, which on a lot of mowers is good. Some mowers do call for more though, so we'll be sure to double check that a little bit later. Yep, that's nice and tight. So what do you think? It's gonna start? I doubt it. I will say it's very easy to pull over. There is compression though. Yeah, nothing. Let's check for spark real quick. So I actually will not be able to see this tester while pulling it over, so you'll have to let me know if you see any spark. All right, good. I just double checked the footage. I could see nice spark. So that's not the issue. Compression, it does have it. It is a little easy to pull over, but that might be by design. So I'm debating whether I should check for compression with the gauge or just jump ahead. Maybe give it a little bit of fuel in the carb. So I think that's what I'm going to do. We'll just give it a little squirt of some fuel. We'll pull it over and try it again. Filter doesn't look too bad. And I can see the choke's on, which is good. This is an auto choke. That's a possibility if it's hard starting or doesn't start, that the auto choke could be broken. And in this case, it is turned on. So, yeah, we'll give it a little squirt of starting fluid. See if this thing will come to life. All right, very nice. The engine, it sounds good. We just have a fuel problem. So let's get this inside. We'll get it up on the lift. We'll get that carburetor off and clean it up. We'll just get the airbox out of the way. We've got a couple tubes connected to it. The top one is the crankcase breather from the engine. And the bottom one, I'm guessing, is a tank vent. Though I usually don't see that on lawnmowers. So we'll get the fuel line off next. And there is no fuel valve here, so as soon as this line comes off, we're going to have the tank emptying out, which may not be a bad thing. If the carb is clogged up, there's probably old fuel in there. So, I mean, you can pinch it off if you know the fuel is good. In my case, I'm going to catch it and just drain the tank so we know we're starting with some fresh fuel. Yeah, one thing worthy of note too, lawnmowers like this, they never have a fuel filter or a shutoff valve. And on the older Briggs, the flatheads, it's kind of hard to fit those items in there. You can usually fit one, but not both. In this case, we have a nice long fuel line. Looks to be a 1/4 inch, so we should be able to fit an inline fuel valve and a fuel filter when we put this back together. Yeah, there wasn't much fuel in there. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting setup. So I think what I should have done first was remove these screws from this bracket. Because the way it is right now, you can't actually slide the carburetor off unless you remove the auto choke on the other side, which I don't think we need to do. If we just remove these two screws, they're actually Torx. That bracket should just stay behind and the carb come off. Yep, and that just moves out of the way. Slide this forward a bit, and you can get this little spring out of the way. And if you rotate this, the throttle plate, you can then lift that rod right out of there. And then we have our prize. I think we'll start just with pulling the drain bolt. Probably should have done that first. That tells you a lot. If it's rusted, you know you're in for trouble. And it could be as simple as water in the fuel too. So just by draining it out, if you see any water in there, then chances are you just fixed your problem. In this case, there is no water. And the bolt actually looks good, so I don't think we're going to see much in the way of rust. I think we're just dealing with a clogged jet. Because we know the needle and seat are working, or there would have been no fuel inside that bowl. Very clean, actually. Needle looks good. Main jet's down there. Let's see if we can get that out. And it's not coming out, so I don't want to break it. You know, I think I might spray a little bit of carb cleaner in there. That should maybe help to free it up. Otherwise, we'll soak it in the ultrasonic for a bit and try it again. Actually, I'm going to try the impact. That is extremely effective just on the lowest setting. A lot of times it'll break these free without actually damaging the brass. There we go. So that's the emulsion tube. I'm going to shine a light up there, see if it's clogged. Nope. Main jet's not clogged. So I'm a little surprised it didn't run based on what I've seen so far. The top of this carb is pretty dirty, so I'm actually going to put the bowl back on and spray it down before removing that pilot jet, because there's some small passages there that can clog up pretty easily. And that, I would say, must be clogged. Although even if the pilot was clogged, I still would have expected it to run a bit. It would have just been surging. That's the idle set screw. This lawnmower doesn't idle, so when you put that screw back in, only get a few threads poking out on the other side. You don't want to go crazy and over rev the lawnmower. And this is the pilot jet. These are pretty hard to tell if they're clogged, but let me shine a light in the side and we'll look up the center and see if we can see any light there. Yeah, I see the light. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that fuel is just so bad it doesn't burn. Because I don't see anything wrong with this carburetor. So, I say we do a burn test. All right, so we're going to just test a little bit of this. And it doesn't smell bad. I wouldn't say it smells exactly correct. I think it will burn. Yep, still burns. Anyway, that was a fun test. Didn't really shed any light on the situation. So, I say we clean it up. We'll just get some fresh fuel in the tank and we'll try it again. I mean, I don't see any reason why this shouldn't run. There's not a whole lot to this carb. There's a few little passages on the side right there. For that, I use a small wire from a wire brush that has a little 90-degree bend. And that is enough to clear those holes. That is where the fuel comes out from the pilot circuit. And I need some more light for that. That one actually might have been clogged. That's the hole that's in front of the throttle plate and should always be feeding fuel. So that's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't think that would be enough though to do this. And the ones in the back are actually pretty good. So, don't think there's really too much more to check on this. Just make sure this is clear. And it is. That goes all the way through. The emulsion tube, I already took a peek with the light, and it's not blocked. There are some holes on the side here which have to be clear, and they do look clear. So I don't think we have any issues with the emulsion tube. No issue with the main jet, which we already knew. The pilot jet is fine. So yeah, no smoking gun here. So let's give it a bath. We'll bolt it back on and give it another try. We'll put the small little bits in this T-ball. And we'll give it about 5 minutes. So while the carb's soaking, I've been taking a look at this tank. Angelo mentioned that this tank does leak, and he doesn't fill the tank up more than halfway or else fuel ends up spilling out. So he did replace the cap at one point and said that did not solve the issue. And the cap does look to be in good shape. We have the O-ring right there. And when putting the cap on, I'm able to tighten it down snug. So I don't think the cap is the issue. And what I did notice actually is that over on the side here, it looks like there is a hairline fracture. It's very hard to see, but it starts right about there and kind of runs around the corner. So I think the tank may actually be cracked. And if you look on the inside, there's a few other areas of concern. It doesn't look like it's broken, at least not on the outside. But I would say something did happen with this tank. So before I get the carb on, I'm actually thinking I'm just going to fill the tank up right to the top and see where the fuel is leaking. And actually, before even doing that, I'm going to add the fuel valve right there. As far as the fuel filter goes, I was wrong. This one actually has a fuel filter in the tank. So we'll just leave good enough alone. We'll add the fuel valve there, top the tank off, and see where it leaks. So I'm thinking right about there. So we'll snip it there. And then we have to actually take out about a 1/2 inch. Yeah, we're looking pretty dry, actually, so I don't think those are cracks. They just must be scratches on that tank. So if the tank is leaking, it's got to be through the cap. So yeah, I guess we'll just put the cap on. And when we go to test it, we'll check back, see if it's leaking. All right, let's get this back together. Starting with the emulsion tube and the main jet. The pilot jet, there are two flat sides. It doesn't matter which side you pick, but one of them has to go against the carb body. And make sure this goes all the way in. If it doesn't, that'll be a vacuum leak and things aren't going to run right. In this case, it's not going in, so I'm going to rotate it. Try it again. Nope, it's not dropping in, so I'm going to get a little bit of WD-40 on that, and that should help it out. There we go. That should be good enough. About 2 threads poking through. That's it. It's back together. Let's try it out. Always double check that throttle. Make sure you didn't do something to lock it up. In this case, we're fine. So I'm going to leave the air filter off for now. We'll just turn the fuel on, lower the table. We'll try to start it again. Place your bets. How many pulls? I'm going to go with 2. All right, not too bad. I mean, I lost the bet, but in a good way. It started first pull and sounded really good. And so far, the tank, it's not showing any signs of leaking, so I suppose that is a good thing. Anyway, I do want to order some stuff and just do some basic maintenance here. You know, this was a free mower to me, so I'm thinking a new air filter, a new blade, and kind of want to know if we need a new tank so that we can get that ordered as well. So what I'm thinking is, for now, we'll put the old air filter on, just use this as is, cut some grass, and just keep an eye on that tank. See if there's anything funny going on. Tank is looking pretty dry. So I don't think we have an issue with the tank. You know, most likely it was the cap. It's kind of an odd design how this thing screws on. It's really just a half a turn. And if you don't get it just right, it's gonna leak. So that's my best guess as far as what was going on there with the previous owner. But yeah, I mean, this machine, it's really in very good shape. It doesn't actually need anything. You know, that said, I have nothing into it, and I think a bit of maintenance would be called for here. So I will get the new air filter, the new blade. When those show up, we'll get them installed, as well as some fresh oil, and put it to work a little bit longer. Just make sure there's no surprises. It's been a few days, and I've got the parts I need. We got a brand new blade from Stens, as well as some air filters, which may or may not fit this engine. You know, most mowers like this, they have a separate ID tag on the engine to identify it for parts ordering. And this one, you know, I can see where the sticker used to be, but it looks like it was peeled off. So these may not fit. The blade, though, I know is the right part because the model number for the mower is right there, which is basically everything except the engine. So let's start with the air filter, see how we make out there. I think it's going to be the right one. Yep, that'll do. Maybe. There we go. Well, apparently I forgot to hit record, but you didn't miss much. I scraped off all the old grass, and now I'm just going to put on a little bit of fluid film to help protect this deck. On lawnmowers, usually I just tip it on its side and the oil goes right out through the oil fill. Usually there's a dipstick way up here, which this one has the cutout for it, but it doesn't actually have it. So if I tip this one on its side, most likely I'm just going to make a huge mess. So in this case, I'm just going to use a transfer pump to remove most of the oil. I don't know, might need a new pump. This one's not working too good anymore. All right, it's been a few weeks, so this is going to be a good cold start test. Anyway, I'm not expecting an issue here, but it's always good to double check. You know, sometimes things like this surprise you. So we'll just cut this small area, make sure things continue to run well, and call it. No issues to report. Even after sitting for a few weeks, still starts first pull, runs quite well, and I was gonna say I think we're dry, although it is a little wet. So we do have a leak. Let's see if we can tell if it's coming from the cap or that crack. Yeah, it's actually coming from under the cap. So, yeah, I think the issue here is the tank itself. This opening, it looks to be a little bit egged, like not perfectly round. So let me get the caliper out. We'll just measure it this way versus that way. And yeah, if it's not round, then I think that is our issue here. So in this direction, we are at 2.25 inches. And in the other direction, yeah, 2.09. So that is the issue. This tank opening, it is distorted. And because of that, we're not getting a good seal. So yeah, I was ready to call this one done. Unfortunately, I think we do need a new tank. So let me go online and see what's available. All right, the new tank showed up today. This one I got off of eBay. I think it was advertised as new, but an open box. So hopefully I got the right one. There are a few different tanks that fit this engine. You know, some differ in capacity, and I think others in the type of fuel cap it accepts. So let's measure this one up. The other tank, I believe it was 2.25 inches in one direction and 2.09 in the other. So hopefully this one's a little bit more round. So we've got 2.16. And in this direction, 2.12. So Yeah, that's a lot better. I think this one should do. So let's get the mower up here. We'll swap the tanks and try it again. So I've just been comparing, kind of contrasting these two tanks, and this one does seem to be the correct part. I don't see anything that would prevent this from going on, but one big difference is these two bolts right here on the left and right. The original tank didn't have that. So yeah, the new one's a little bit less attractive, I'd say, but in the grand scheme of things, I'd rather have one that doesn't leak. Anyway, looking at the new tank, you can kind of see how we need to get the old one off. We got a fastener here on the bottom, which you can just see right there, and a couple on the top. Those are hidden by this cover right here. So before getting that cover off, let's drain the old tank. We'll pull this cover and swap them out. That should be good enough. We'll get the rest out once the tank's off. The nice thing about these, I think once the recoil is removed, no additional bolts, that just lifts right off. And geez, this looks fantastic. I mean, this flywheel has no rust, coil no rust, very clean mower. Probably one of the cleanest I've seen, actually. It seems like the same bolts that hold down the plastic and the starter recoil are also holding the tank down. So we can get a wrench on it, it looks like right there. Same on both sides, we'll get those studs out. And we also have a breather right here, or not a breather, but a tank vent. So we need to get that off, as well as the fuel line. So let's get the bag out of the way. That'll give much better access to the bottom bolt. And actually, probably not a good idea pulling the fuel line there. There is still fuel in the tank, so we'll pull it right here. Since the fuel valve's off, we shouldn't lose anything. Studs on there pretty tight, meaning there could be some thread locker. It's not really releasing very well, although it is spinning. Yeah, there is some thread locker on there. So when we reinstall, we'll use thread locker as well, since these bolts are pretty critical, since they're holding down quite a few things. And you can also apply heat to free up bolts that have thread locker on it. In this case, these are touching plastic with fuel in it, so probably not the best idea. So I just turned the mower around to give you guys maybe a little different view on what's going on here. Anyway, I'm going to start just by getting this bottom bolt on. I'm going to leave it loose for now until we get those studs installed. And it's a good idea just to clean up the threads before reinstalling these studs. Don't have a torque spec on these bolts, but I want to make sure they're at least 100 inch-pounds. It should be more than enough. Looks like there's a cap on here and no fuel filter. So the tank did not come with one, so we'll have to reuse the old one, which is still in pretty good shape. And a little bit of WD-40 makes it a lot easier to get these lines connected. Let's try the cap out, see how it fits. And yeah, that's a lot easier to put on. The old tank, you really had to fiddle with it to get it to drop in place. And when turning it to tighten it up, it didn't really feel like it was turning that much before it got too tight to turn anymore. This one though feels a lot better, so I think that is going to be the fix. All right, let's try this again. The new tank is installed, cap is on tight. Hopefully we don't leak. Yeah, I think that did it. We are nice and dry. So yeah, kind of an odd one. I haven't had one with a distorted tank opening like this. So I'm not sure if Kohler knew about it. I mean, this tank is definitely different from the original as far as how it's constructed. Anyway, this mower, it didn't really need a whole lot. I mean, the carb looked fantastic. Why it wouldn't run the machine, I'm not sure. But whatever it was, after a quick clean, it came right back. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.